My name's Nick Owen. I'm director of the Aspire Trust, which is a small social enterprise based in Wallasey in Merseyside. We're an arts education organisation, which means we do a lot of work in schools, adult learning contexts, both in Merseyside and internationally as well. We've been working for about 10 years, and we are what you might call a micro business, in as much that we have no core funding as such. So all our income is generated from contracts, sales, conference places, and all sorts of different places. And that economic reality makes life, it gives life a particular quality to work in. It means that we are all very, very conscious of generating income if you work here. And certainly people who work with us are very connected to the income. It's not as if we have somebody in the back room, putting in funding applications, or someone else looking after the bank accounts, and that's their job from 9 to 5. Everybody has to be connected to the income in one way or another. And certainly that's one thing we would look for if we have a student placement, or one thing we're looking for from a graduate is someone who can come in and go, who can generate more than they're costing us, which sounds a bit crude, but it is very much these days, if you're looking to employ anybody, not just graduates, anyone, you're asking yourself the question, is this person going to cost me more than they can generate? What we look for is people who are really hungry, and people who've got something to offer, and people who are kind of interested and interesting. That's how we kind of look at people, really. And if you kind of walk through the door and you're not interested in what we do, you've not looked at the website, you've not read any materials, you've not done any kind of research at all, and we've had those people who walk through the door and do that, you're going, that's not very interesting to us. And if there's something about the work that we do that's of interest to you, then we've got something to work with, and if you've got a kind of passion or desire to make something happen within the framework we're working in, then fantastic, we'll make that work with you. And I say that goes for everybody we're working with. You're a graduate student, postgrad, everybody has to have those things are really the most important thing, really. It's about desire. I mean, one thing we can tell you is that we interview quite a lot of people, through the year, one way or another, and we realised there's at the interview table, on the interviewer's side, there is the ejector seat button, and it's just under the table, and you're just waiting for someone to say something or do something, and you can press the button and the seat goes through the roof, really, and that's it. And it doesn't take very long in some instances, but it's that kind of, because you see a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there looking for stuff, which is understandable, but don't give us a reason to press the ejector seat button. Recently we had a student from Liverpool who was a management student who came to us on his semester 5 project, doing a dissertation or practical project, whatever it was, and that worked fantastically, and he connected with the organisation really well. He made things happen for us that we didn't have the capacity to do at the time, and we've subsequently turned him into our head of marketing now. So he's marketing our major productions and events next year. Which is fantastic, and so he started off as that student, and in fact he started off as a student who had missed the kind of placement boat, so he came to us quite late, hadn't sorted it out 3 months before like a lot of the rest of them, but it all fitted very well. But it was that combination of right place, right time, right levels of desire, interest, and willingness to kind of lend a hand. That is the beauty, I think, of working in something like a micro business, is it gives you an opportunity to learn shed loads of other things, and which is not about being a jack of all trades, because you don't do that. It's about equipping yourself with a huge range of skills, which is what you need these days, and I'm sure that's true if you're working in a large corporate as well. The days of like one skill set, if they ever were here, aren't here any longer. You need multi-skilled people, people who are kind of, I keep coming back to it, interested and interesting, and have some desire to make stuff happen, rather than just to happen to them, that kind of passive sat there waiting to clock in, waiting to clock out, waiting for lunch break. Forget it. Doesn't work. I've been working in the sector for like 30 years now, and we've always had a crisis, And there was a crisis in 84, there was a crisis in 89, there's always a crisis, and we live in a permanent state of crisis, it feels like, which is not to undermine at all the recession that we've gone through, because it has hit everybody really hard. But there is something about the sector that goes, actually, you've got to be tuned to being in a pretty much a crisis anyway, because the value of the work isn't up there with things like kids' hospitals and kidney dialysis machines, and that that's the way of the world. And let's face it, that's probably not unreasonable. So you've got to be robust and resilient, and you've got to not take it personally. And I think that's difficult in the arts as well, because a lot of arts practice is about you. You know, you're putting yourself on the line more often than not. You're, you know, exposing yourself. You're expressing yourself. You know, you do put yourself on the line in a lot of ways that other professions don't ask of you. And more often than not, yourself is rejected. So it's one of the important things to learn through that process. The other bit of advice I would offer to people is, and we see a lot of this, we see people who've had their CVs written by other people. You know, you can tell the templates, and they're shocking. And they look, the first one looks fantastic, the second one looks a bit suspicious, and the third and fourth and fifth one you've given up because they haven't taken the time to impose their own personality on the CV. So I would say dump the template CVs and write your own. Obviously it's got to be coherent and it's got to make sense and all that stuff, but put your own personality in it. That doesn't mean writing it on yellow paper or, you know, including large photos and having large floral designs all over it, but don't use the templates. You know, they're terrible, terrible things.